All right, welcome. Today we're going to walk through a full 10-mark AQA chemistry exam question. My goal here is to show you exactly how an examiner's mind works so you can go in and snatch up every single one of those marks. Okay, let's get right into it.
So here's our game plan. We're going to decode the question's setup, prove a fundamental law using the data they give us, whiz through some quick lab skills, absolutely nail the big calculation, understand why it matters in industry, and then wrap it all up with a master key for your exam strategy. First things first, Section 1. Before we even think about answering, we have to understand the scenario they've laid out for us. Let's break down the setup. Okay, so the whole question revolves around this single reaction. You've got silver nitrate solution mixing with sodium iodide solution, and they make silver iodide and sodium nitrate. Now, the most important thing to spot here are those little state symbols. See how our product, silver iodide, has an S next to it? That means it's a solid. Everything else is aqueous, dissolved in water. This is a classic precipitation reaction. That little S is a huge clue. Okay, let's move on to our first real task. Section 2 is all about proving the conservation of mass. We're going to tackle question 03.1, and you'll see pretty quickly that all the proof we need is right there in the numbers. So here it is. The question's for 2 marks, and notice how it specifically says you should use data from Table 3 in your answer. That's not a suggestion, that's an instruction. It means we can't just state the law. We have to prove it with the numbers they've provided.
And here is that very data, Table 3. We've got the mass of 2 beakers and what's inside them, both before and after they're mixed. Just take a second and look at those numbers. What are they telling us? To grab that first mark, we do exactly what the mark scheme wants. First, calculate the total mass before mixing. That's 78.26 plus 78.50, which gives us 156.76 grams. Then, we do the same thing for the mass after mixing, 108.22 plus 48.54, and what do you know? It's also 156.76 grams. The totals are identical.
So you've done the math. That's 1 mark. How do you get the second one? You have to write a concluding statement. And the perfect one, pulled straight from the mark scheme, is that because the totals match, the mass of products equals the mass of the reactants. No mass was created, none was destroyed. That's 2 marks in the back.
All right, let's keep this momentum going. We're moving on to Section 3, Mastering Lab Techniques. This is going to be a quick-fire round of 1-mark questions about the practical side of things. Question 03.2 asks how to get that insoluble silver iodide out of the mixture. Remember that little S for solid? That's our big clue. So how do you separate a solid from a liquid? Yep, it's that simple. The mark scheme is looking for one word, filter, or filtration. That's it. That's the whole mark. Okay, next up, after separating the solid, the student rinses it with water. Question 03.3 asks us to name one impurity that gets washed away. So what else was left floating around in that water after the solid formed? And the mark scheme actually gives you a few options here. The most obvious one is our other product, sodium nitrate. But you'd also get the mark for naming any leftover reactants, so unreacted silver nitrate or sodium iodide would also be perfect. Any one of those 3 gets you the point. And the last 1 marker in this section, the student then warms the silver iodide. Why? What's the point of warming a wet solid in a lab? You got it. It's simply to dry it out. The official answer is to remove or evaporate the water. Super straightforward. Okay, everybody, take a deep breath. It's time for the main event. Section 4, Calculating Atom Economy. This is the big one, a 4-mark calculation, so let's break it down step by step and make sure we collect every single point. First, let's just be clear on what atom economy even is. In simple terms, it's a measure of how efficient a reaction is. It tells us what percentage of the atoms from our starting materials, our reactants, actually end up in the useful product we want to make. And luckily for us, the question gives us all the relative formula masses we're going to need. So, let's earn these 4 marks. For mark number 1, you just add up the MR of the reactants. 170 plus 150 equals 320. For the second mark, you have to write down the formula for atom economy. For the third mark, you plug in the numbers. So the MR of our desired product, silver iodide, is 235. We divide that by the total MR of the reactants, 320, and then multiply by 100. That gives us 73.4375. But hold on, we're not done yet. There's still a 4th mark to get.
And this is the bit where people can lose an easy mark. You have to follow the instructions. The question specifically asked for the answer to 3 significant figures, so we round our 73.4375 to 73.4%, and that, right there, is a perfect 4-mark answer.
We're almost at the finish line. Let's tackle our final question in Section 5, the industrial application. We've done the math, but now we have to explain why this stuff actually matters in the real world.
Question 03.6 asks why industrial processes need a high atom economy. Well, the mark scheme gives a few fantastic answers. You could talk about the environment and say it's for sustainable development. You could talk about money and say it's for economic reasons, since less waste means more profit. Or you could just state the obvious. It's to produce a higher percentage of useful product. Any of these will score you that final mark.
And just like that, we've collected all 10 marks. So let's wrap up with the most important part of all. Section 6, your exam master key. This is where we take what we learned from this one question and see how we can apply it to every exam you set. Here are the golden rules. 1. Always show your working and calculations. You can get marks for the method even if your final answer is wrong. 2. Use the data they give you. It's there for a reason. 3. Read every single word of the question. Details like 3 significant figures are such easy marks to drop, but they're even easier to get. And finally, the ultimate study hack. Use official mark schemes. They literally tell you what the examiner is looking for.
You see, that big, intimidating 10-mark question is really just a series of smaller, manageable steps. Once you follow a clear method, just like we did today, you can master any challenge the exam throws at you. So the only question left is, which one are you going to master next?